Hey guys, welcome to What I Learned from Being in 100 Street Fights Part 2. It's a sequel. So when I say I'm not referring to myself, I'm referring to our guest, Daniel, who now has his own YouTube channel. Go ahead and check it out. It's called 100 Street Fights, man. I'll link in the description below. He just posted his first video. But in Part 2, which is the second half of this video series, we're going to discuss the role that weightlifting plays in fighting, and it's not just building strength. We're also going to ask Daniel what he thinks the most effective technique or techniques are when it comes to street fighting. Also find out why he got in so many fights in the first place, and make sure to stay until the end because I'll share my own personal story dealing with road rage. Yeah, road rage. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed, hit that bell notification so you can see when I put out new content. And with all that said, let's get to the second half of this conversation.
I've seen you ask that question, like what do you see yourself like an
Yeah, how do you
boxing
define
guy?
yourself exactly?
I find myself like a fighter
Okay.
who adapts. I can't say, man, that is because judo helped me very much. And the judo I was making like when I was 12 years old, but it stuck with me.
Hmm.
If someone hits you with a sword, what style are you gonna apply? Are you gonna put yourself in a boxing stance? It doesn't work. So you have to get away from the sword. It's automatically Aikido. Bodybuilding, lifting weights. Lifting weights is part of martial arts because it helps you very much. You don't have to lift like bodybuilder, but incorporate in training.
I mean, just having a stronger body and more endurance and being in shape is going to give you an advantage. Like an athletic dude compared to a non-athletic dude, whether either of them are skilled, let's say they're both not skilled, this guy is going to be able, should be able to fight more, you know. And the interesting thing and the point I've made before, when you lift weights, you basically have a higher tolerance for pain because a lot of this stuff is mental. If you've been lifting weights long enough, you've been trying different routines like 20 rep squats, drop sets, all this stuff that you're basically mentally tough enough to get through because a lot of those like higher rep sets is mental toughness.
180 and flexibly come up.
Damn!
Yeah.
So you have a higher tolerance for pain, which I think could actually carry over into fighting because you're just going to be tougher in general.
Yes, of course. But David, like pain, you won't have time to think about pain in a
Yeah, I'm sure you probably feel it the next day or whatever.
Exactly, the next day, yeah. But on the moment, you won't feel pain. It's the mental thing. Like you will feel fear, but pain, my experience.
But see, here's the thing where I go with that, though, where I think it ties in the mental toughness, because going involuntarily to some of these hard workouts, you know what you're willing to put yourself through.
You know what you gotta do. Do it. Do it.
So, for example, like if I were to be in a street encounter, I know what I'm willing to put myself through, and I'll do whatever I have to do. Like if I have to break my hands, I'll worry about that later. Like I'm going in, with guns blazing mentality of toughness. Like I will do whatever I have to do, and whatever damage I take, I've already accepted. Like I will deal with that later.
Jerry, I know myself. If I'm out on the street and it starts to go down, I don't back off until it's finished.
So I think, and it's, on a smaller level, the gym's kind of like that too, where you know what you're about to go through and you're willing to put yourself through that. So I think gym builds toughness that could carry over to fighting in a way.
Of course, running, just simple things like running, of course, stamina, resist, endurance, of course, everything that is physical. Just this thing like 1%, that thing like 5%, everything that is physical is depend on your mindset. If you think like, man, I'm lifting weights for a fight, to have strong legs, is going to help you on that fight. If you think like, man, I'm lifting weights for being big, that's your purpose.
Speaking about purpose, the main reason Daniel came on my show here, the main reason he wrote his book, the main reason he's got his YouTube channel, which I mentioned at the beginning of this video, he's going to give you tips and stuff if you do get in an encounter, but essentially the main purpose of all this is, and the main message is just to avoid fights, especially in the street, if at all possible.
That was the main purpose, for the people to avoid fighting, no matter how trained, because sometimes the opponent is also trained. And this is the surprise factor, like knives.
Crowbar, like you mentioned, obviously they could be multiple assailants. So in general, obviously your message is just to avoid fights if at all possible. Now, obviously sometimes you can't, but of having all of these fights, what are there like certain things you've learned are the most effective in general? Like what kind of techniques, if you can't get out of the fight, with your experience? Obviously, like the average martial arts class won't really teach you this. I mean, they'll probably have the techniques, but they don't. Very few guys have had 100 fights, basically. So you would have a good idea of what actually works. What can you provide information-wise?
David, from my personal experience, the main weapon, in my opinion, the main weapon in a man's arsenal is the hook.
Okay.
That is because easy, fast, target the
So
chin.
you're targeting the chin with the hook, basically.
To learn how to box, even though you use only your hands, it's not easy. When you see a guy, man, that is just a punch. That guy has years of experience on throwing just that simple punch. And the main weapon is the hook. With your power hand, left or right, is the hook, but you have to do it correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to break your hands without gloves. So in all these street fights, like that's your weapon of choice, so? Is throwing hooks, basically?
No, that's my weapon of choice. If is the right distance.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a fight, a guy runs at you from a side, immediately kick, of course. But if you're like, man, I have to finish this guy, I have to finish it. What's mine? It will be the hook in the chin. What I've learned, because David, in Kyokushinkai, you're allowed to use knees, you're allowed to use kicks. What you are not allowed to use? Punching. Why is that?
Too easy to land in somebody's face.
And of course, it's easy to land and dangerous because it's very easy.
Yeah, that's true.
To land the kick, you're with the guy. It's in your face. To land the kick, you have to step back. You have to calculate the distance. You have to position yourself. But the punch, MMA, the top guys, the heavyweights, the main weapon, the fist.
Yeah, a lot of knockouts from that.
Of course, you have to know legs. You have to know how to protect. But the weapon, the most powerful, not exactly that is the most powerful, like power measuring. No, but you can do it fast. Short distance is the hook. The best weapon, in my opinion.
Okay. Have you implemented any dirty fighting techniques in your street fights, groin kicks, eye strikes, or anything like that?
Never. I will never fight dirty, like poking. No, never.
Oh, interesting. Now, is there a specific reason? Because I know in general, like, there's no honor, like, on the street, right? I mean, I guess it's a little bit different if you're working security in a club. You don't want to jab somebody's eyes or necessarily kick him in the balls. But in the street, there's no honor, and people will pick up a crowbar, and attack you. So Is there like
Yes.
still a moral code you have where you won't fight dirty just for whatever reason?
David, probably if I would have a guy on top of me with a knife, probably I will push my finger on his eye, probably, but only in situation like that. Even though I'm gonna lose the fight, I'm not gonna kick in under the belt or no, it's not my type.
Okay, so you still have a certain like code of conduct, even though they're fights. You're still saying you're not going to go to certain areas unless specifically your life is in danger.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, because I've always thought there's different levels of fighting. You know, there's like obviously your competition fighting with rules. There's maybe a bar fight in public with witnesses. You're not going to like bite somebody's nose off in that scenario or poke their eyes out. And then there's like getting mugged on the street, where in my opinion, if some guy's got a gun on you or a knife and trying to rob you for $20 and values your life at worth $20, my mind is this guy is not even, I'll dehumanize him and I will do anything dirty but this is like a Krav Maga type mentality, because I don't even look at this as a person. This is a guy who thinks my life is worth $20. So that's where it's almost like beyond dirty fighting. It's almost like some of the stuff in the Krav Maga is almost like warlike, where, you know, and I would never want to do that to somebody, but I would go to that area if I had to. But in that scenario where my life was on the line, not like in a bar fight or anything.
Yes, I understand. You're right, but I believe you. So you do Krav Maga.
Yeah.
Before you get to the eye poking or something, I'm sure that you'll find a technique immediately from instinct. I'm sure of that.
Oh yeah, that's not my go-to.
You're not gonna open with that, are you?
Definitely. But that and again, that's on that level of getting mugged or robbed, or if there's multiple assailants or on the street, because then like that's the level where I feel like there's no honor. Not to say that if you get in a bar fight, there's a level of honor, but you got to still be somewhat civilized because there's people around. And I don't think someone in public's going to try to kill you like they would in a dark alley. So there's a certain level of conduct I still think you need to adhere to in a bar fight, but not on the street, like in an alley. I mean, I look at different levels, you know.
Levels. Levels. Yeah.
Of course, I never thought about it like that, but I see your point. And probably it's about the situation. If the danger is like very high, of course, you have to apply everything, of course. But I never put it like, man, I was like just a fight is over. It's I don't know, couple of seconds.
Sure. Yeah.
10 seconds, 20.
Now, here's the thing. So since you've been in so many fights, do you actually enjoy fighting or not necessarily?
David, to be honest, you're talking about street fights.
I mean, some people get an adrenaline rush from that, or even doing security. And then other people, like, you know, obviously most people will fight if they have to, but some people actually get off on that and they like the adrenaline rush, you know?
David, I had that feeling you're talking about. I've had it at my first days. I told you I was going into the discotheque like Segal in that bar, looking for a fight. But now, honestly, I hate being in a fight.
But like when you were in your 20s or something, because, you know,
Exactly.
like when you're young, a lot of people probably want to test their skills. I'm not saying it's right, but there's like an ego thing with people who train martial arts until they get to a certain level where they realize you really win if you don't ever get involved in the fight, which I had a couple of scenarios where I actually able to diffuse them. I'm actually more proud of myself. It's like I got to win without actually having to hurt them or putting myself in danger.
I saw that video when you talked about some of your encounters. Yes, David, that's the most smart way to win a fight. Believe me.
Oh yeah.
If you can avoid it, that's a smart thing. That's the best way to win a fight without fighting. That's my opinion from my experience.
What's your style?
My style? You can call it the art of fighting without fighting.
The majority of your fights, though, you would say were work related, right? In general, or?
I'd say like 70% work
So that
related.
still leaves like about 30 fights outside of work. So obviously you talked about, a couple of them. Is it,
Yes.
do you think people in Romania just fight more in general, or just certain things attracted to you for some reason? Because let's say, take out the 100, let's just say the 30 fights unwork related. That's more fights than most people will ever get in, and more fights than anybody should ever get in. Are you just hanging out in bad neighborhoods, or what's going on?
David, my town, it is called Little Sicily.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's a violent environment. And I don't know, if you have like money and a good situation, probably you wouldn't get in so much trouble. But that guy, Mr. T, said an interesting thing, and I find myself in what he said. The man was a bouncer. He knew the streets, and he said, "Man, anyone needs a bodyguard, because anywhere you go, always it will be a guy who looks funny at you. And if I had money, I would have like 2 bodyguards, and someone like, man, deal with my 2 bodyguards. I don't want to fight." Because even in traffic, it's a guy who talks dirty to you in traffic. You drive the car, and if you're that guy that says, "Man, it's not nice. What are you talking?" A fight starts.
Sure.
So I don't know. Probably it's the environment. I don't know, but believe me, I'm just tired of. And yes, also many fights is because of working. That guy from work remembers you, and you have a problem with him outside.
Yeah, that makes sense. Rebbein talked about that as well. So in general, though, I know the traffic thing, and I've seen people get out of their cars. I mean, I may have gotten out of my car before too when I was in my 20s, but so nowadays, though, since you just don't like fighting, you're more the guy who like just brushes it off, and like the guy does whatever, says whatever. You're probably more the guy that just ignores it, so because you don't want anything to do with fights these days, or.
If the guy says something like, "Man, I can beat you," something like that, I say, "Man, you probably can," and I'll walk away. But if that guy kind of like abuses you verbally, I'm just like, no, I can't. I take it like to a level. I can take it to a level, but if it crosses that level, it's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everybody has their breaking point. And one of the videos I even had, I showed when Van Damme basically had his little road rage incident. Even somebody like Van Damme.
Beautiful, that's new.
You want?
Maybe you move to the left.
What do you want, this piece of shit? You did that to me?
That's okay. Leave it alone, okay?
Why are you doing that to me?
I saw
there's a certain level where it's just like in the moment. Yeah, you probably just in that moment may not be able to control yourself. It's hard.
Yes, but in my country, when I get, let's say it happened to me. I got out of the car because of road events. But my stress, my concern is not that guy comes out. About 50% cases, it comes out with a sword, with a bat. That's my concern, not fighting.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I remember this incident in California. I was just driving down the street, and this dude was going like, I don't know, twice the speed limit, and almost ran into me, and he's like honking and honking. And he eventually moves over, like, I'm in his way. Dude, I'm doing the speed limit. I'm not, like, stalled in the middle of the road. But, you know, like, he passes me and, like, flicks me off and does all this. I'm just like, I'm just doing the speed limit, man. Like, I'm not, you know, holding you back. You're just going too fast. But anyway, there were some verbal exchanges because this dude really pissed me off. And again, I was probably in my late 20s, so I was a little – I'm more calm now, you know. So, well, I was more likely to want to throw down in a fight at that time. You know, in the heat of the moment, this guy's yelling and flicking me off. And I said, well, you know, go over here to this gas station or whatever then. So yes, I park over there. I park over there.
Yes.
He gets out of his car, which is fine. Because I'm like, all right, come on. And then, like, he's reaching in, like, the back, you know, behind the driver's seat, like he's going to get something out, you know, like a bat or a bar. And I'm, like, looking at him, you know, and I'm just like, you know, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, we're exchanging stuff. And it's like, I don't know if he had a gun back there. But long story short, he just ended up going in his car and driving off. But, like, yeah, I mean, the dude probably had a bat or a gun. And maybe, even though he was so crazy, maybe he decided it's not worth potentially trying to kill somebody. But I would have fought him even if he had a bat, to be honest with you, because he gets one swing, in my opinion. If he doesn't connect good, that dude's gone. But again, I'm a lot calmer, and I'm not the one that wants to get in a fight. But this, I haven't run across many guys like this. I don't know what his problem was, but he went 0 to 100 like that and was screaming and all this other stuff like I'm like the worst guy on the planet, where I'm just like, I'm in my lane doing the speed limit, and this guy is just a fucking maniac. And, like, it pissed me off, so I, like, called him out on it, you know?
Of course, I understand. I know the situations.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. That road rage can get you got Van Damme even, remember?
Yes.
Stop it and let it go with the juke.
Yeah, look, they say, tack.
I said don't play the game. Stop, because of what happened with road rage, okay? So cut it off.
Take this in your ass,
Stop
you
it.
piece of shit, come.
Let it go, okay? Let it go, I said. He's not gonna see your fight. Let it go, I said. Okay, Green.
So they
He's
get
young
all
and
crazy.
stupid. That's all he is.
Look at him.
No, stop.
He's...
Can you stop?
All right, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out to the end, and I'll see you in the next video.